Hello, this is a little video by Elizabeth from the Smart Stitcher just to show you how to tack your fabric. So the first thing you will need to do is make sure that you have your fabric layers lined up so that they are pinned and ready for tacking. So tacking itself is a hand stitch that we use to hold 2 or more pieces of fabric together ready for machining. Now for this project I am only tacking my pinned edges, and I want my tacking to run roughly where my stitches will be on the actual sewing machine. So this particular project has a 1 centimetre seam allowance, so I'm going to be roughly 1 centimetre in from the edge. To start your tacking, you want an arm's length of thread in your needle, but you've folded it over so that you'll be sewing with a single thread, but there is a little overlap in your needle that you will be pulling through. So the actual stitch itself will just have the 1 thread, and you just make sure that you slide the needle up your thread to avoid 2 threads getting attached to your fabric. So to start off, we push from the front to the back, and you want to pull that thread through without pulling your thread off your needle off your thread and pulling the thread actually all the way through the other side of the fabric. I'm now going to pinch that little tail so that it can't escape as I'm doing my starting stitches. Now the good news is your starting stitches are exactly the same as your finishing stitches, and we're just working our way through the fabric, going from front to back and back to front to secure our thread so that it doesn't come undone, because if it's undone it won't be holding our fabric together. So you want to just go, it's a bit like sort of running on the spot. So do 3 or 4 stitches to secure your thread. They don't have to be pretty because they're temporary, they're going to be coming out. What I will do though is cut that tail off so that it doesn't get in the way as I'm stitching. So here we go. Now I want my stitches to be strong, but I don't want them to have a massive distance between them. So as I go through my fabric, I'm going again from the front to the back and the back to the front, and I'm looking for roughly a stitch length and of 1 centimetre and a gap of about 1 centimetre. So stitch length 1 centimetre, gap 1 centimetre, all the way round. If you're sewing with a fabric that's sort of a little bit slippery or shiny, you may want to put your tacking stitches a little closer together, particularly if it's stretchy as well. So I'm just working my way along, sewing over the pins, and you can, if you wish, take them out as you get to them, but I want to make sure that my stitches are firm. So I've pulled my thread flat against the fabric so that everything is held securely. If you are stitching, for example, and you have loops, you know that that's not going to work because the fabric will become loose. So make sure that your thread sits against the fabric. Equally, if you've got wrinkles that look a bit like this, you've pulled your thread too tight. So just flatten everything out. Make sure that it is flat because that will be important for machining. The next thing we need to do is work our way along our other edge, and we're just going to repeat that process, making sure that we're roughly near our seam allowance, but if you're not 100% on it, don't worry. So just keep going through your fabric. If you're feeling a bit wizzy, you can do some stitches like I'm doing as well. If you're not, just work your way along. Your technique will grow with practice, so it's really important. So if you happen to get looped over any pins, just remove them, get them out of the way. One thing to have a final check of is to make sure that you've got all your pins out, because we don't want our pins going through the machine. So I can now pull my last loop tight there without it getting in the way, and I can then just do my finishing stitches. Now if you find your fabric is fraying a little bit, snip off your threads, or if they are sort of small threads, just pull them to one side so they don't get in your way. Do your finishing stitches and then you have tacked your sample. So we are now ready for machining.